Before we begin, please be advised that our podcast may contain some adult themes that may not be suitable for all listeners. Now, on to our show.
Poor your family, dude. They always have some kind of car
There's
debacle going
Because
on.
all of our cars are fucking old, dude.
Were they on their way to the casino?
Yeah, my mom had gotten some like free play money for her birthday.
I bet she did. Yeah.
Like $100.
Mm-hmm.
So
We are not casino people, Evan and I.
Me
I'm not
either.
either.
We went one time and spent $5, and then we were like, we don't want to put more money into this. Can we go to the buffet?
Yeah, that's what we do.
I like to know where my money goes. I like to see it. The
I'm
crafts.
pretty good. I'm pretty good at making money when I do go to the casinos, but I'm just a penny person.
Yeah, I just like to see where it goes. I don't want to I don't want to make more all the time. I know what I got and I know what I can do with what I got, and I'm okay with that. I
Yeah.
don't.
And that's okay.
So welcome to the Sippin Saga Society, where we cover history, mysteries, and overall weird ass shit. My name is Karina, and today we are joined with Christina and Nevada. Also, I was thinking about it when I was doing this. How do you want me to say your name? Do you have a preference on how your name is said? I don't want to say it weird.
Very northern Nevada with all the
Nevada.
hardness, the harshness,
Oh, you like it hard?
the harshness.
Mm-hmm. So, oh yes, let us know. What are you sipping? You just told me how to say your name and I forgot immediately.
It's fine, whichever. I made my own little margarita tonight with some pickled peppers from our garden from last year. And I bit into one of those and it was freaking spicy, but so good. And then water
It looked nice. I liked it. I thought it looked good.
Yeah, that does look
with
good.
tahini.
Oh yeah, obviously for health.
For help.
That's what I do. What about you, Christina?
We went to Taco Casa and they have like the Sonic ice, and so I got a Coke.
Nice. I don't
And
know why that adds flavor.
it it does something.
It's different.
I don't know what flavor it's adding, but nutrition.
It's good though.
Bougie.
I have a water packet of cherry limeade Sonic brand that I put a smidgen of that tahine vodka in it.
Ooh.
This is a smidge. So it tastes pretty good. Anyway, and I got scared. I looked over and saw my freaking spider that I own, and I was like, there's a spider in here. I'm gonna send you the picture and you're gonna be like, I get it. Also, let's all take a drink for my jumping spider Bernard who died this morning. I don't even know how.
No.
This is my fourth one, and you know what? I think I'm done. I think it's gonna be the way of the goldfish where I just don't get fish because I kill them.
Yeah. Well,
They send them to you. They're like, Karina.
These people don't need to be alive anymore. Give them.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. I feel bad about it. So I'm gonna slowly introduce you guys to this topic. I know that I was very insistent that Christina had to be here because I needed this, okay? So my, I got all of my resources from a Guardian article by Christopher Riley by the title of The Dolphin Who Loved Me, the NASA-funded project that went wrong.
Is this, wait, first of all, is this about the dolphins where they train them to like shoot missiles or some shit?
No, this is like a
Oh,
1960s story of research. So you already know it's already unhinged because it's 1960s.
telekinesis.
No.
No. Oh gosh. Oh my God.
NASA
I'm glad-
project gone wrong. That's
I'm
wild.
I'm really glad you guys have no idea what this is. It's going to be phenomenal. So Christopher Riley, who did this whole article, I mean, and it's a really in-depth article that I have copied, as I do. But he also produced and directed the documentary covering the same story called The Girl Who Talked to Dolphins. So the story is about Margaret, Margaret, Margaret Howe Lovatt, and she grew up with stories of talking animals. And I feel like we all have grown up with those stories. Like how many, I mean, I could probably name like five right now of animals that talk, you know? And so I think that is for me personally, like, that superhero question, like, oh, if you could have any superpower, what superpower would you have?
Hmm.
Mine is like 100% talk to animals. I want
Yeah.
to know,
You would talk to animals. That's
yeah,
cool.
I want to know what they are having to say.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's awesome.
so, she grew up with those stories too. So she was like, yeah, that's really cool. So in 1963, during Christmas, her brother-in-law mentioned that there was a secret laboratory on the east end of the island where they were working with dolphins. And so she decided to pay that lab a visit early the following year. So she had heard about it and was like, I'm going to go bother these people for no reason.
Can you do that?
I don't know. See, that was the thing is I was like, but I'm pretty sure a smidgen on the spectrum because that is like in my brain against the rules and not okay. Like I could never.
Me
Hmm.
too, but Colton's like, that's something Colton has done. He's like, I'm just gonna go talk to him.
And I'm like, no, you can't talk to people. You can't, no.
You're
They
not
don't want
supposed to
you to
do
talk,
that. You
yeah, they don't want you to talk to them. What's wrong with you?
you you have to go through the proper channels, dude. You can't just like,
Exactly. Make an email. So
yeah.
I'm glad I was the only one.
Golden's like, I saw the gardener outside.
You let
I'm
me
trying
in.
to tell me something.
I brought a
He
dolphin because the guy let me in.
yeah. He did that at the garden today. The garden house. It opened at 10. We got there at 9:30. He walked up and he's like, "Can we just walk around? We're here early." And they said yes. They just let him do it. They opened the gate so we could come in.
I don't care if you're gonna say yes. I don't want to ask. I will throw up.
I'm like, dude, they open at 10. Let's go do something else. He's like, I'm gonna ask them.
I'm gonna ask
30
him
minutes.
anyway.
I
That's me though,
know.
honestly. I'm
Well,
like, you want me to say something?
that's why the friend group is the way it is because
Yep.
we need people to ask and people to be like, I'm not asking. I'm gonna cry in the car now because I'm stressed from this conversation.
Didn't make eye contact.
Mm. So she said that she was curious and she drove out there down a muddy hill, and at the bottom was a cliff with a big white building. She was met by a tall man with tousled hair. And also, I love descriptions. I'm like, tousled. We already know what he looks like. Wearing an open shirt and smoking a cigarette.
My
This,
man.
yes. His name was Gregory Bateson, a great
Uh,
intellectual of the 20th century and the director of the lab. Why'd you come here? He asked. Lovatt. Well, I heard you had dolphins. Goes up. I'm here too for the dolphins. And I thought I'd come and see if there was anything I could do or any way I could help. I know. I feel like that's a weird way of wording it. Why are you here? I would be like,
also,
why are you here? Go away.
also, like, what qualifications does she have?
That's what I was gonna say for
I
her.
like dolphins and I like reading books where they talk.
Oh no. They tell you the reason of why they let her in because they do let her in.
Okay.
Unused to unannounced and visitors and impressed by her bravado, Bateson invited her in to meet the animals and asked her to watch them for a while and write down what she saw. I see that's weird. That's how
See,
you
It
get
was
this
the
is why,
60s.
yeah, so to say this is why people get murdered because they're like, you want to go look at the dolphins? This is the epitome of that white van with no windows. Her. Look in that creepy ass building.
He
but
was probably
honestly,
like free work, free labor. I don't have to pay you. Go ahead, crazy girl.
you
Hmm.
know what I mean? And honestly, if you say something with confidence, you know what I mean? They're like, oh
Well,
yeah, like she sounds like, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, you
She
sound
seems
like you know
reasonable.
what you're doing. Oh yeah,
you seem like you know what you're talking about.
Despite her lack of scientific training, Lavatt turned out to be an intuitive observer of animal behavior, and Bateson told her she could come back whenever she wanted.
What?
wow,
Why can't that could never be me.
I know.
I would cry. I would cry. I would cry the whole time.
And I have to talk to a man. Like that's a whole other
And
thing.
you have to be
Like
alone with the man. There's only dolphins there, the worst of the sea animals. Like this is the thing.
they also don't understand consent from what I've read online.
Well, neither does her or she. She doesn't. He,
Is that
Lavatt,
a foreshadow?
It's a foreshadow, in my opinion. I don't know. I
No.
feel like it's not a foreshadow. Whatever, we'll get
Oh,
to it.
okay. Okay.
There were three dolphins, remembers Lovatt. Peter, Pamela, and Sissy. Sissy was the biggest, pushy, loud, and she sort of ran the show. Pamela was very shy and fearful, and Peter was a young guy. He was sexually coming of age and a bit naughty.
The
I feel like
dolphin?
the
Is that the
dolphin.
word for word, like verbatim?
Is that
Yes,
your language?
that is her word for word, verbatim. This man went and interviewed her. It says, remembers Lovatt. She remembers this and was like, he was coming of age and a bit naughty. And you're like, Karina, why'd you have to say it like that?
Mm-mm.
The lab's
There's
upper
so
floor. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
there's so many different ways that could have been said though. Like I'm just like,
He
Oh
was
yeah.
sexually coming of age and a bit naughty. Like, none of it is good. There's no situation where you're like, why'd you have
you
to come
naughty
out the same
boy.
side? Yeah, it's weird. I don't like it. The lab's upper floors overhung a sea pool that housed the animals, and it was cleaned by the tide through openings at each end. The facility had been designed to bring humans and dolphins into closer proximity and was the brainchild of an American neuroscientist, John Lilly. Here, Lilly had hoped to commune with the creatures, nurturing their ability to make human-like sounds through their blowholes. So, oh no, well, I'll just go on. I'm just going to read on.
No,
Lilly had
you said
interest.
blowholes, and for some reason I thought butthole.
If it's because I said naughty earlier, isn't
I
it?
think so in my
And
mind
he's
because I was
coming
like
of
left.
age. This
Yeah.
naughty blowhole.
Lilly had been interested in connecting with cetaceans. That's how they said it. Cetaceans. And I was like, that is not a real word. What does that mean?
What
And
does it mean?
is a member of an entirely aquatic group of mammals that breathe air, give birth to live young, produce milk, and have hair, but are also carnivorous. So this is like whales, that like killer whales that eat meat and like dolphins that eat meat or fish or whatever. So like,
Dolphins? Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So like other sea-dwelling mammals that are herbivores are under a separate category. Yeah, I was like, wow, the more you learn.
how do you say the word?
I have no idea. Cetaceans. I don't know. I could have Googled that, but I just Googled the definition and did not think about pronouncing it ever until this moment. So he ran into a beach whale in the 1940s and then was really amazed by the size of the animal's brain and was like, wow, these things must be smart because their brains are big. Because that was the thought at the time. If the brains, oh yeah, literally, you are talking about a time in science when everybody's thinking about a correlation between brain size and what a brain can do. And in this period, researchers were like, whoa, brain, big brain, cool. At every opportunity in the years that followed, John Lilly and his first wife, not married, would charter sailboats and cruise the Caribbean, looking for other big brain marine mammals. It was on
Big
such a trip.
brained.
Yes, they were looking for that brain. It was
Yes.
just such a trip in the late 1950s that the Lilies came across the marine studios at Miami, the first place to keep bottlenose dolphins in captivity. Boo. Up until this time, fishermen on the East Coast who were in direct competition with dolphins for fish had considered the animals. Yes, they were competing together. They were known as herring hogs in most of the seafaring towns in the US, says Burnett. But here in the tanks of marine studios, the dolphins' playful nature was endearingly on show, and their ability to learn tricks quickly made it hard to dislike them. Which I think is an interesting point because I guess in my brain I had always assumed that people like always loved dolphins and had this fascination with dolphins.
Yeah, I agree though. Like I feel like people do. Like when it comes to like what is it when you go to like SeaWorld and stuff, right? Of course, it's the whales and the dolphins. Or I went on a trip and I swam with the dolphins and
I'm pretty sure I ruined a date like that by telling this man about how dangerous dolphins are and how they rape people.
They do rape people.
And he's like, no, they don't. And I was
Yeah,
like,
they do.
yeah, they do. We left there and he had blocked me already. So
I bet he did.
I ruined his dream. He was like, "That's my biggest dream." And I was like, well, guess what? They're
I hope you
terrible.
like having sex with dolphins
He may.
because
We
they
don't know.
like having sex with us. Sorry, Karina.
No, it's fine. I was just thinking, like, well, we've always grown in a world where people are obsessed with dolphins and they're like super cute. But like, yeah,
But
never
they're
lived in a,
menaces.
yes, they are. Um, but here in that place, the marine studios, they were showing him all these cool tricks. And then it was the first time that Lilly, the scientist that made the lab, had a chance to study the brains of live dolphins. And he was able to map their cerebral cortex using fine probes, which he developed on his, oh my God, in his work with rhesus monkeys. Unable to sedate dolphins as they stopped breathing under anesthetic, the brain mapping work wasn't easy for either animals or scientists,
Oh,
and the
that's fun.
research didn't always end well for the marine mammals.
Oh, that's so
Shocking for the 60s. But on one occasion in 1957, the research would take a different course, which would change his and Mary's lives forever. Now, age 97. Damn, Mary is 97 and cannot escape her ex-husband. Sad. Mary still remembers that, yeah, because this was his first wife. It says in the thing, his first wife, Mary. So that means
And she's 97. How old was he?
well, no, now the interview is now, currently.
Oh, currently.
They interviewed her now about this time in her life.
Okay.
Yes.
So she's 97 right now.
Yes, being interviewed about her ex-husband, about John's research that she was with him for.
Oh, she married the dude.
No, this is a separate person. Mary is
Oh,
his
oh.
Mary is the researcher's wife.
I thought it was the weird bitch who was like, let me
No,
work for you.
no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I should have this is the background. This is the background to the place that she went to go bother the people at where
Okay.
the people get kept. This is the scientist. She married the scientist.
I see.
So she
That
did
made me
marry
laugh.
him.
She said,
No, Mary
Okay, okay, okay.
Mary is not the crazy lady who later has relations with the dolphin.
Okay, okay. I knew she had
She is
sex with the
not the
dolphin.
dolphin lady.
what was her name?
Her name was yeah, this is good because if y'all are confused, everybody else is confused. And I remember thinking, her name is Margaret.
Margaret.
Okay, so Margaret, the dolphin lover.
Yes, Margaret is the
But
dolphin
then
lover.
she went to go work at John's. He's the research guy.
Yes,
John's
But
wife
the
is Mary.
yes.
Okay.
There is
Mary, not
That's said
Margaret.
the weird bitch. I'm sorry, that's funny. She said, I thought it was the weird bitch.
where else who else is there? There's only one woman ever. So
Okay.
anyway,
I didn't know how many parts there were in this play.
there's still the dolphin. We haven't even gotten to the lady. I'm gonna refer to her as Margaret. We have not even gotten to Margaret yet. Because we're still discussing his operations. Because
Yeah.
Okay.
this story is really like the background of how she even ended up in that position in the first place.
Okay, so Mary is married to the scientist who is also a dillweed, it sounds like.
We don't know why they separated. Maybe she's the terrible one.
I thought you said she
Oh
couldn't
no,
escape him.
I forgot. Yeah, I did say that because he's terrible, dude. I
See?
say that I was hiding it, but he's not great. He's not
W-
ideal.
When you use the word escape, I'm like, oh, this is not great. That
No,
is exactly my thought.
I meant it more as like, God, it's always about some guy, isn't it?
It's
Like,
like an escape room. Okay.
well, she's 97 and they're asking her about her ex-husband, is what I'm saying. Like when
Oh,
they
their ex? Okay. Yeah.
went for this interview. But
I'm
anyway,
caught up.
we're
It's all making
I'm gonna
sense.
leave all of this in just because it's everyone else is probably confused too. Whatever. So Mary and the scientist guy like are working together and she was listening to him talk to the dolphin and it sounded like the dolphin was trying to make the same noise that John was making when he was talking to the dolphin and she was like, "Hey, this is interesting. Let me tell you about this thing." And then John was like, "Wow, maybe." He said this behavior indicated an ambition on the dolphin's part to communicate with the humans around them. So that's whenever a new exciting opportunity was shown to Lilly, where he published his theory in a book in 1961 called Man and Dolphin. His idea was that dolphins are eager to tell us something. And that was an idea that captured the public's imagination, and that book became a bestseller. Because so basically, Mary was like, "Hey, whenever you talk, the dolphin talks." And
Yeah.
it sounds just like what you're saying. And he's like, "Wow, that's cool, Mary. I'm going to write a book about this thing." And
What
then
if
that
it's just like mocking him though? You know?
what if dolphins could talk and they were just making fun of us the whole time?
Yeah,
Like they're
like
assholes.
I feel like that would fit the like demeanor of a dolphin much better.
In my head, that does fit the dolphin narrative. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the book Man and Dolphin extrapolated Mary Lily's initial observations of dolphins mimicking human voices right through to teaching them to speak English and ultimately to a cetacean chair at the Nations. I don't know why those dolphin creatures need a chair at the United Nations.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. They gave
Do they vote?
where all marine mammals would have an enlightening input into world affairs. Oh my God, because they're like, well, they can talk. They really should have a place here.
Oh, do they actually like present day, or is this what
I
they were
don't,
trying to like? They were like trying to
Bro, he could
sell
have done
that.
some shit with that. He would have been like, the dolphin told me
we
that.
It's like preachers with their God. God told me, but now it's the dolphin. It's a whole religion around it.
and you know what? There probably is a cult. There probably is a cult. I'm not even,
A dolphin cult
there is.
where they wear flippers.
They have to.
They have to.
Episode of South Park where he turns himself into a dolphin. I don't know if you watched that one. It's terrible.
No, I've never watched South Park.
It's bad.
It's so bad. Anyway,
It's bad.
I trust
so
you.
yeah. So his theory had a special significance for another group of scientists, astronomers, which I was really amazed at this part. I'd read his book and was very impressed, says Frank Drake, who had just completed the first experiment to detect signals from extraterrestrial civilizations using a radio telescope at Green Bank in West Virginia. It was a very exciting book because it had these new ideas about creatures as intelligent and sophisticated as us, and yet living in a far different milieu. He immediately saw parallels with Lily's work because we both wanted to understand as much as we could about the challenges of communicating with other intelligent species. The interest helped Lilly win financial backing from NASA and other government agencies, and he opened his new lab in the Caribbean in 1963 with the aim of nurturing closer relationships between man and dolphin. So, like, overall, his whole thing was literally creating a relationship between man and dolphin so that we could understand each other.
Hmm.
That is how NASA ended up becoming part of this because I mean that makes sense. If I here am trying to make contact with like the beings of the earth, uh, definitely that would help me make contact with other beings, right?
Right.
It checks out.
Yeah, it makes sense. The science and math are math. A few months later, in early 1964, Lovatt, Margaret Dolphin Lover, arrived. Through her naturally empathic nature, she embraced and connected with all three animals, as well as John Lilly's vision for building an interspecies communication bridge. She threw herself into his work and spent as much time as possible with the dolphins, carrying out daily lessons with them to encourage them to make human-like sounds. While the director worked on more animal-to-animal communication, she was left alone to pursue. Wow, this lady just shows up and they're like, "You can do this part, do this job." She was left alone to pursue Lily's dream to teach the dolphins to speak English. There's this just unscientific. She just showed up on the streets, woman, and here you go, teach them. But even at a state-of-the-art facility like the Dolphin House, barriers remained. You don't say.
They
Every
don't speak English? What?
It wasn't that easy.
it was not,
Oh,
and you know why? Because every night, this is a direct quote, every night we would all get in our cars and pull the garage door down and drive away. Margaret remembers. And I thought, well, there's this big brain floating around all night, the dolphin. It amazed me that everyone kept leaving, and I just thought it was wrong to
we
leave this.
abandoned him to sleep.
We're not with him 24/7. That is why he can't speak English.
Checks out.
Sounds, I mean, I
I
got a
thought
big,
they were smart. She's like, if we don't talk to him 24/7, he'll forget.
Mhm.
He has short-term memory loss.
He's a fish. No, he's not a fish. I know that they're not fish. Ugh, it's that conservatory all over again,
The dolphins are going to come for you.
probably. Margaret reasoned that if she could live with a dolphin around the clock, nurturing its interest in making human-like sounds, like a mother teaching a child to speak, they'd have more success. Maybe it was because I was living so close to the lab, it just seemed so simple. Why let the water get in the way? So I said to John Lilly, I want to plaster everything and fill this place with water. I want to live here. Concerning. The radical nature of Lovatt's idea appealed to Lily, and he went for it. She began completely waterproofing the upper floors of the lab so she could actually flood the indoor rooms and an outdoor balcony with a couple feet of water. This would allow a dolphin to live comfortably in the building with her for 3 months. Margaret selected.
Only a couple feet of water? There is no way.
Yeah, I don't think this lady gives a shit about the dolphins like fully well-being. I mean, she does kind of, but like,
It's like
I don't.
when
Is it evident?
people,
No, but
it's like
like they're like, we're
kidnapping.
fine. Yes.
I don't know.
I
It's
can't
like
tell if she's like fully committed to her job or if she's bored. Like, because you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta have a lot of time to be like, yeah, I could just work all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
Margaret has no life. She has nothing else to do.
no friends, nothing.
Nobody's
Just
sitting here at the Dolphins house.
just the
and for
dolphin.
him to be like, yeah, like you're fully committed, my dude. Let's do it. Good idea.
That's
Like,
probably exactly how that conversation went. These those exact words to her. It's the 60s.
Quote it.
I chose to work with Peter because he had not had any of the human-like sound training and the other two had. She explains that she would attempt to live in the isolation with him 6 days a week, sleep on a makeshift bed on the elevator platform in the middle of the room, and do all her paperwork on a desk suspended from the ceiling and hanging over the water. So she was in the water with him all the time. On the seventh day, Peter would return
I
to the.
bet she looked like a raisin.
She
Like all of the, do you know what could happen to your skin being wet all the time?
I
Like,
don't
fuck.
know. Oh, I don't know. I hope she got out a little bit, but like if your desk is in there, how long are you spending in the water, you weirdo? And
I
it was
can.
all seawater.
Oh no, that could not be good. Maybe she's just really dehydrated and not thinking well because of all that salt water.
She probably drank it. We don't know. Don't drink
Fair.
it. On the seventh day, Peter would return to the sea pool downstairs to spend time with the other two female dolphins at the lab, Pamela and Sissy. By the summer of 1965, Margaret's domestic dolphinarium was ready for use. Lying in bed surrounded by water that first night and listening to the pumps gurgling away, she remembers questioning what she was doing. Maybe we should have done that before, Margaret. Should have had some thoughts. Human people were, were out there having dinner or whatever, and here I am. There's moonlight reflecting on the water, this fin and this bright eye looking at you, and I thought, wow, why am I here? But then you get back into it, and it never occurred to me not to do it. When I was doing what I was doing there was trying to find out what Peter was doing there and what we could do together.
Make it make sense.
That was the whole point, and nobody had done that.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna cry.
It's like she's daydreaming about her future husband. Like,
No, the part that gets me is what I was doing there was trying to find out what Peter was doing there and what we could do together. Imagine
oh
if
my god.
I show up to your house. I'm trying to figure out what you're doing here so I can know what I'm doing here.
Okay, so if this girl had a friend, could you imagine listening to her as a POV? Like,
If she had a friend, because we do not think she does.
like a sane person, because it's not her boss. That's for sure.
Or her brother, who was like, you
Or
know
her,
that dolphin place? He knew she was crazy. He said, no. You knew she
he
didn't make
said,
the best choices. And he's like, you know where you should go hang out? Oh, God. Okay, focus. I had to scroll it so I couldn't see that little quote anymore because it was really messing with me.
I lost it. I'm sorry.
No, I lost it. I was like, whoa. Audio recordings of Margaret's progress, meticulously archived on quarter-inch tapes at the time, it was the 60s, capture the energy that Margaret brought to the experiment, doggedly documenting Peter's progress with twice daily lessons and repeatedly encouraging him to greet her with the phrase, "Hello, Margaret." M was very difficult, she remembers.
Your name's fucking Margaret, first off. Like, that's not an easy name.
It's not like Sam.
Yeah, yeah. It's like there's like 3 syllables in there.
There's a lot of letters in that name.
Mhm.
Oh, Margaret, I worked on the M sound and he eventually rolled over to bubble it through the water. That M he worked on so hard. Well, yeah, it's the worst letter. He doesn't have lips.
Mm. And like he can't, yeah.
He's like,
He cannot, Margaret.
He can't like he
I'm trying
can't
to
move.
the dolphin, how you could even,
It's a
yeah,
long ass beak too. He doesn't have like mouth movement.
no. He was probably like F M Ed or something, and she was like,
Yeah.
not an M. You're terrible at this. For Margaret, though, it often wasn't these formal speech lessons that were the most productive. It was just being together, which taught her the most about what made Peter tick. When we had nothing to do was when we did the most, she reflects. He was very, very interested in my anatomy. If I was sitting here and my legs were in the water, he would come up and look at the back of my knee for a long time. He wanted to know how that thing worked, and I was so charmed by it.
oh, you went to see it then. Let me show you.
Now bend it again.
Oh my god.
Ugh. Carl Sagan.
How she's writing about her experience because in his head he's like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean?
Yes.
What
He's
a
probably like,
ugly ass creature.
Yeah.
they're broken. Fix them. These fins are stupid.
You can't swim fast with those.
Is this why you live in this house? Sit about there. You're gonna die. Anyway. Carl Sagan, one of the young astronomers at Green Bank, paid a visit to report back on progress to Frank Drake. I don't know who half these people are. We thought it was important, I think astronomers. We thought that it was important to have the dolphins teach us dolphinese, if there was such a thing, recalls Drake.
Stop.
For example, we suggested 2 dolphins in each tank not be able to see each other, and he should teach one dolphin to a procedure to obtain food, and then see if it could tell the other dolphin how to do the same thing in its tank. That was a really prime experiment to be done. But Lily, the experiment owner guy, never seemed to be
Yeah.
able to. So I wonder why.
He couldn't get them to do it.
He couldn't get them to do this experiment.
Hmm.
Instead, he continued to encourage Margaret to press on with teaching Peter English.
Oh.
He said, we're not gonna bother with their stuff. Just make them learn our.
Give him the alphabet, Margaret. Oh shoot, I'm on the wrong side. Oh god, okay, we're there. But there was something getting in the way of the lessons. Dolphins get sexual urges, says the vet, Andy Williamson, who looked after the animal's health at Dolphin House. I'm sure Peter had plenty of thoughts along those lines. Literally, the fucking vet said that.
Ow.
Peter liked to be with me, explains Margaret. He would rub himself on my knee or my foot or my hand, and at first I would put him downstairs with the girls, she says. But transporting Peter downstairs proved so disruptive to the lessons that, faced with his frequent arousals, it just seemed easier for Margaret to relieve his urges herself manually.
Oh my God.
I
She
allowed
must
that,
be
she says.
human.
I was uncomfortable with it as long as it wasn't rough. I wasn't uncomfortable with it as long as it wasn't rough. It would just become part of what was going on,
Fuck.
like an itch, just to get rid of it, scratch it and move on. That's how it seemed to work out. It wasn't private. People could observe it. For Margaret, it was a precious thing. See his face?
Stop it. If there's mermaids, it's fucking Margaret's fault.
Margaret's the reason for manatees. Reddit, tell everyone. It was a precious thing,
Fuck.
always carried out with great respect. Peter was right there, and he knew I was right there. She continues, it wasn't sexual on my part. Sinuous, perhaps. It seemed to me that it made the bond closer. I wonder why.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Not
sure
because
it did.
of the sexual activity, but because of the lack of having to keep breaking. No, we did not, Margaret. Shut up. It's because we kept talking through it. That's why. We didn't have to take a
Yeah.
lesson. And that's really all it was. I was there to get to know Peter. That was part of Peter.
Yeah, she
She
got to
is
know him very well.
Delulu.
Also, this is her after. This is her being interviewed about this way after. So she's like, no, it wasn't. Mm-mm.
Oh, so what the fuck?
It's just, yeah, she's been done, gone, and it wasn't during the experiment. This is like after. Innocent as they were, Margaret's sexual encounters with Peter would ultimately overshadow the whole experiment when a story about them appeared in a Hustler magazine in the late 1980s.
She made the magazine.
Yep.
No, stop.
I never even heard of Hustlers, says Margaret. I think there were two magazines on that island at the time, magazine stores. And I went to one and looked and found this story with my name and Peter and a drawing. Margaret bought up all the copies she could find, but the story was out there and continues to circulate to this day. I did not read the story, but if anyone finds it, please send it to me. It's a bit uncomfortable, she acknowledges. The worst experiment in the world, I read somewhere, was me and Peter. I don't believe that's true, in my opinion. There's probably worse experiments, but like, it's not great. It's not great. That's fine, I don't mind. But that was not the point of it, nor the result of it, so I just ignore it. Something else began to interrupt the study. And this is why I don't like this scientist, John Lilly. He had been researching the mind-altering powers of the drug LSD since the early 1960s. That's probably why he kept leaving Margaret to do all his job. The wife of Ivan Tors, the producer of the Dolphin movie Flipper, had just introduced him to it and at a party in Hollywood. So he's over here being introduced to LSD, and he is really great friends with this guy who made the movie Flipper. It just sounds like I threw a bunch of words together and
Also, there was just a lot of like dolphin and whale movies that came out around that time. So it's just like,
maybe I'm thinking of
okay.
the 80s too. Because I feel like the 80s had a lot of dolphin or whale movies.
Oh, yeah. Like
Yeah.
Free Willy, is that from the 80s or?
80s, 90s. I think
Yeah,
around when I was bornish.
it's all the same.
I don't know. It was before I was born or around then, so I don't remember it. I
I
never watched
remember
them.
watching it.
Never watched them. They feel
Hmm.
sad. I don't know why.
They're pretty sad, but they're pretty cool, like epic.
As long as they don't have Margaret in them, I'm pretty good.
No, no Margaret, thank God.
Keep all
So
the animals away from Margaret.
John and Ivan Tors, the director, were really good friends, says Rick O'Barry of the Dolphin Project, an organization that aims to stop dolphin slaughter and exploitation around the world, and a friend of Lily's at the time. Ivan was financing some of the work on St. Thomas. I saw John go from scientist with white coat to a full-blown hippie, he remembers. For the actor Jeff Bridges, who was introduced to Lily by his father Lloyd, Lily's self-experimentation with LSD was just a part of who he was. John Lilly was above all an explorer of the brain and the mind, and all those drugs that expand our consciousness, reflects Bridges. There weren't too many people with his expertise and his scientific background doing that kind of work. One, I do respect like working on LSD and working on how drugs affect our mind in different ways that are not just like, oh, people are using it to get high.
Yes.
However, this as part of his research, the drug was sometimes injected into animals, and Lilly had been using it on the dolphins since 1964. That I don't feel like is
I don't think like injecting it into dolphins is the same as like figuring out how it is because like there's a lack of consent.
yes, exactly. Well, that, and I feel like he wasn't exploring it. I'm not saying like don't ever do it, but like I don't feel like he was exploring it in a science way. I feel like he was like experimenting and was like, these drugs are cool. Everyone should be doing them. Why aren't they? And then was like, let's give them to the dolphins. Like,
I
so I don't feel like
wonder
there.
what it's like when a dolphin trips.
Yes. Much to Lily's annoyance, nothing happened. Despite his various attempts to get the dolphins to respond to the drug, it didn't seem to have any effect on them, remembers Margaret. Different species react to different pharmaceuticals in different ways, explained the vet. A tranquilizer made for horses might induce a state of excitement in a dog. Playing with pharmaceuticals is a tricky business, to say the least. Injecting the dolphins with LSD was not something that Margaret was in favor of. It's the one sane thought this woman has had. And she insisted that the drug was not given to Peter. So Peter was sober whenever him and Margaret were doing all these things, which Lily agreed to. But it was his lab and they were his animals, she recalls. And as a young woman in her 20s, she felt powerless to stop him giving LSD to the two other dolphins, which, like, I kind of get that.
Good.
While Lily's experimentation with the drug continued, Margaret persevered with Peter's vocalization lessons and grew steadily closer to him. That relationship of having to be together sort of turned into a really enjoying being together and wanting to be together and missing him when he wasn't there. I did have a very close encounter with, I can't even say dolphin again, with Peter. By autumn 1966, Lily's interest in the speaking dolphin experiment was dwindling. It didn't have any of the zing to it that LSD did, recalls Lovatt of Lily's attitude towards the progress with Peter. And in the end, the zing won. I mean, it's not as fun as LSD, and I respect that. I understand. That makes sense. Lily's cavalier attitude towards the Dolphins' welfare would eventually be his downfall, driving away the lab's director, Gregory Bateson, and eventually causing the funding to be cut. Just as Margaret and Peter's 6 month live-in experiment was concluding, it was announced that the lab would be closed. Without funding, the fate of the Dolphins was in question. I couldn't keep Peter, says Margaret wistfully. If he had been a cat or a dog, then maybe, but not a dolphin. She's making some valid points. Margaret's new job soon became the decommissioning of the lab, and she prepared to ship the dolphins away to Lily's other lab in a disused bank building in Miami. In a disused bank building
Oh,
in Miami is where she's shipping the dolphins. It was a far cry from the relative freedom and comfortable surroundings of Dolphin House. At the Miami lab, held captive in smaller tanks with little or oh no, this is what happens. I forgot.
I've seen those little tanks.
Peter
They're
quickly
like,
deteriorated, and after a few weeks, Margaret received the news. I got a phone call from John Lilly, and John called himself to tell me that Peter had committed suicide.
no.
So, dolphins they have to think every time they breathe.
Hmm.
And so, if they just don't want to live anymore, they just sink to the bottom and just stop breathing.
Okay, I thought it was like one of those like, oh, sorry, he ran away. Like I didn't know, like you know what I mean?
No, he literally sank to the bottom and died
Oh,
because he
that's
was.
so sad.
Andy Williamson puts in Peter's death down to a broken heart, brought on by the separation from Margaret that he didn't understand. Margaret could rationalize it, but when she left, could Peter? Here's the love of his life gone. Yeah, Margaret, you're over here like all day, day, going at it multiple times a day.
Mm-mm.
And, I wasn't terribly unhappy about it, explains Margaret, 50 years on. I was more unhappy about him being in those conditions at the Miami lab than not being at all. Nobody was going to bother Peter. He wasn't going to hurt. He wasn't going to be unhappy. He was just gone, and that was okay. Odd, but that's how it was, which I kind of get to an extent. I just
really?
But I
quite
feel like she
well,
went out
like
more.
that he wasn't stuck in that
Yeah,
spot anymore.
yeah.
But I do
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
there should have been something that wasn't them being sent there. But I also understand, like, what was she gonna do?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I get, it's like devil's advocate, whatever. But like, what was she gonna do? Let them free and throw them into the ocean? I mean, maybe
yeah,
it would
yeah.
have been a better decision, Margaret.
Do you think they would have survived?
I don't know. And I mean,
Mm.
how would they like? I don't know how long they had been in like how long they had lived there, how long they had, if
Yeah,
they,
if they've ever had to hunt their own food or
I
if
don't
they
know
were
how dolphins work.
stolen,
Like how some animals you can just let loose, but like I don't
like a
know.
pig.
Yeah, I mean pigs will take over, but like I don't know if like a dolphin needs to be raised, being taught how to hunt and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I think they might.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyway. In the decades which followed, John Lilly continued to study dolphin-human communications, exploring other ways of trying to talk to them, some of it bizarrely mystical, employing telepathy. There you go. And some of it more scientific, using musical tones. No one else ever tried teaching dolphins to just speak English instead. Weird. And said,
Interesting.
I know, it's crazy. Instead, research has shifted to better understanding other species' own language. At the SETI Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, founded by Frank Drake to continue his work on life beyond Earth, Drake's colleague Lawrence Doyle has attempted to quantify the complexity of animal language here on our home planet. There is still this prejudice that humans have a language which is far and away above any other species language. But by looking at the complexity of the relationships of dolphin signals to each other, we've discovered that they definitely have a very high communication intelligence. I think Lily's big insight was how intelligent dolphins really are. Margaret Lovatt stayed on that island, marrying the photographer who captured pictures of the experiment. Did he take pictures of her and the dolphin together?
I know that there's pictures. I tried to find the original Hustler article. I could not.
I know there's
There's,
pictures. I know there's pictures of them.
yeah, but I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah.
OnlyFans, watch out.
Together they moved back into Dolphin House, eventually converting it into a family home, where they brought up three daughters. It was a good place, she remembers. There were good feelings in that building all the time.
They lived in the Dolphin House.
Yes, they lived in the Dolphin House. In the years that followed, the house has fallen into disrepair, and the ambition of what went on there is still remembered. Over the years, I've received letters from people who were working with dolphins themselves. They often say things like, "When I was 7, I read about you living with the dolphin, and that's what started it all for me." The
Um,
idea of my living with a dolphin inspires others. That's fun. I like that, Margaret. Anyway, and that's my story for this week.
So
Thank
is
you.
everyone just gonna like bypass the everything else that happened? You know what I mean? Like, if we just like, oh,
I'm
like,
like worried about people who are like, you're my hero. What are you doing to your dolphin, sir?
I'm pretty sure she did. She did write a book. I tried really hard to find it, but I feel like I have heard that she wrote a book. It's somewhere out there, but yeah, I I don't even know. I don't even know. I have no idea. I love all my animals. No, animals cannot
Not
consent.
like that.
That's gross.
yeah, that's very.
I can't get past that part. And she acts real nonchalant about it, but she was like, I can't even call him a dolphin anymore. His name was Peter. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
and like she's one of
Too
those
weird.
like for science people, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to give up your body for science or whatever.
Not
No,
like that,
no,
dude.
Margaret, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Like send
Which
him downstairs and bring,
Which
send him with Sissy and Pamela.
I know. Maybe
You
they
know?
can fix it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, and like I'm not like bothered. It's gross. What she did was gross, and I don't really feel like animals can consent. But like for her to deny that that is something that could create a bond between her and the dolphin is
yeah,
kind of like, okay, you're just being ignorant now. I feel like you're just
yeah,
because how are you gonna say like, oh yeah, me masturbating the freaking dolphin is nothing.
yeah,
Which
no,
you obviously have a bond. Like
yeah.
what? Weird.
I would
yeah.
never.
Well,
I could never. I won't. I'm never gonna see a dolphin again. You can't trust them. They do rape
you
people.
want to
They
swim with
seduce
dolphins?
you. They seduce you. They make you move into their house with them. They
They
gaslight you and pretend they can't speak English.
Peter
Like
knew what he was doing.
he knew
He's been
that
pretending the
narcissist.
whole time. You can say
That
Margaret.
poor Margaret.
Ah, she
Fuck.
suffered. Anyway. Well, thank you
Them
everyone.
delusions.
Yes, for joining us on this fun journey. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Sippin Saga Society. That's it. That's the username. Uh, and that's it. Thank you so much. And let us know what you thought of the show or what you're sipping and if you have tahine on the rim.